but I'm not funny. That was my first thought when I heard of our humorous speech competition. I've dreamed about being funny all my life, but when I try it, and I often do, my attempts at humor almost never work. Even when they do occasionally work, I get way too excited, and I try to capitalize on that funny momentum. I throw a follow-up joke in there. What I usually end up doing is canceling out any previous humor and leaving people with a lasting impression that I don't quite understand the expression, quit while you're ahead. I'm not funny. Ironically enough, that's why I'm here today. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. You may think I'm exaggerating, but I assure you, I am not. As a young boy, my mother was very concerned about my condition. And she took me to see the doctor, and the doctor put me through a series of grueling tests. They cracked my elbows off of desks. They smacked me with hammers. Nothing. No funny. If I was a normal kid with a funny bone, this would have been hilarious. Now, before you begin to feel sorry for me, I should let you know that my wife thinks I'm very comical, hilarious, uproarious, even mirthful. All right, that last one was straight from the thesaurus. But we can agree that she's quite entertained by my vocabulary. Just recently we were talking and she said, I used the phrase, plight of my insecurity, in reference, I believe, to giving this speech, to which she so lovingly replied, who the heck uses plight of my insecurity in common, everyday speech? She encouraged me to go ahead and buy a pocket protector to complete the ensemble. With all this mounting evidence of my unfunniness, what could I possibly bring to this humorous speech competition? Well, if nothing else, allow me to share with you the factors that have contributed to my lifelong struggle. I've done a me-search of some sorts, and I've come up with some very troubling discoveries. Now, these terms might not show up in the medical dictionary, but if just one drop of the following 4 social syndromes that I suffer from will keep you right up there with me in the upper echelon of the unfunny. The first condition that has routinely sabotaged any hope of me being considered funny is something I've called chronic joke explanation syndrome. Nothing sucks the funny out of the room more than when I've told a joke, self-laughed at the punchline. You've done this before, where you're convinced the joke is going to be funny, and so you start chuckling through the punchline. Then she said purple billiard balls. Only to halt your solo laugh and realize that nobody has any idea what you're talking about, and they certainly don't share the enthusiasm. Now, at this point, a decision has to be made. You could walk out of the room. You could cut your losses. You could keep your pride. You could maintain the shred of dignity that you still possess. But chronic joke explanation syndrome strikes and causes those who suffer from it to try to explain why the joke is funny and why they should be laughing and why you're not an idiot for trying to explain something that shouldn't have needed an explanation. The second is something I call chronic joke exploitation syndrome. Just because a joke worked once doesn't mean it's guaranteed to work again. Yes, I am that guy. Every once in a while I tell a well-timed joke, I get a good laugh, and then it starts. I start comically salivating, searching for the next opportunity to exploit for my personal comedy vendetta. Charlie laughs at a joke, and then I smell blood. Oh yeah, Charlie, you thought that was funny? Well, you should hear the one about the lion, the botanist, and the opera singer. To which Charlie quickly interrupts, yeah, Aaron, you told me that one on Monday. The third syndrome that I suffer from is something called chronic sitcom recall. This disease causes the memory of your favorite sitcoms to be prompted by everyday experiences. And yes, I've been a part of this awkward social scene as well, where I've watched as my colleagues have stood there uncomfortably for 15 minutes while I try to describe why their purchasing plane tickets for their aunt's funeral somehow reminds me of my favorite episode of Seinfeld. words really aren't necessary at this point. The bobblehead, awkward smile, help me get out of here expression on their face, that's all I really need to know. Well, my only salvation through years in regards to humor has been dialogue through email. And this brings me to my fourth syndrome, cyberspace cleverness syndrome. If you hear my voice, forget it. But if somehow I can arrange for our relationship to be based solely within the confines of cyberspace, well, I've been known to get more than my fair share of sincere LOLs. This is not just theory. This is documented fact. Studies have shown that those who correspond with me first through email and then meet me face to face are slightly disappointed. I know what you're thinking, Aaron, this is the perfect cover for your unfunniness, but there is a risk. Recently, I found favor with my now current boss by sending a few clever, well-timed emails. Then he invited me to Texas for a face-to-face interview. Let's just say I felt the need to call him in advance and warn him that I wasn't nearly as funny without the assistance of backspace key. Well, I hope that sharing these social syndromes and my suffrage from them has somehow enlightened you and maybe has been able to help you avoid joining me in the ranks of the unfunny. Maybe you can learn from them, because I know everyone around me is praying I can.